What's up, guys? Todd here, What You Want Sports, and today we are diving into the last division I'm working on in the AFC, and that is the AFC South. Now, this division, I feel like switches it up every year. You never know who's going to be good. Whether it was the Colts last year, the Jags the year before, the Titans the year before that, who knows who's going to win this division? But let's dive into it, starting with the Houston Texans. Now, I have the Houston Texans this year going 10-6 and 4-2 in their division, as you can see right here. This team, offense starts and ends with Deshaun Watson. He is electric. He can do it with his arm and with his feet. The only issue I think he's had is that he's been running for his life. And yeah, he's a very good quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback in my eyes. Very bright young star for the future of this league. I think he has potential to be MVP caliber player. And yeah, with his receivers, obviously D-Hop, best receiver in the game, one of the best receivers in the game. He's really going to enjoy having Will Fuller back because I think Will Fuller is going to be able to kind of keep safeties high because they have to be worried about his deep ball, which I think is actually going to open D-Hop and help Deshaun Watson limit his turnovers and be as productive as possible. Now, they also do have somewhat of a run game. Lamar Miller has been a very solid, underrated back for the last couple of years. Ever since he's come to Houston, he hasn't been as productive as he was in Miami, but very productive running back. And I like kind of the thunder and lightning with him and Dante Freeman. Dante Freeman, if you might not know too much about him, he came from Texas 2 years ago, had all right production as a rookie. Got injured. Last year was injured as well. But I do like him. I think that they're going to complement each other well, and they should be a formidable backfield. Now, tight end-wise, they're kind of thin there. I do like Cahill Waring from San Diego State. You'll notice the guy, he pops. He is huge. He is massive. Only been playing football for a couple years. Former lacrosse player, I think. And yeah, I really like him. I think he should develop into a solid tight end. But yeah, as of right now, they don't have a featured number one tight end. The main issue with their offense, if anyone can poke holes in it, is not weapons. It is that offensive line. Now, their offensive line has been terrible. Like I said earlier, Deshaun Watson has been running for his life for the last few years. But I think this year gets a little better. I don't think it's going to change all overnight. But like we saw with the Colts last year, if you draft the right guys in that offensive line, everything can change. Now, they drafted Titus Howard out of Alabama State in the first round. Most thought it was a reach. I thought it was a reach. But who knows? You got him, and then Max Sharping was a third-round right tackle from Northern Illinois. And I think if those two can mesh together, you can have a solid offensive line. And all they need is an okay offensive line, like you've seen with a Russell Wilson, and other quarterbacks throughout history. An offensive line is great to have, but if you truly have weapons, you should be able to still move the ball down the field. Okay? Now, we can move on to their defense. Now, their defense is very good. Obviously, you love J.J. Watt, Hall of Famer, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Before there was Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt was supposed to be, it was the greatest defensive player, we'd ever seen. He's getting compared to LT and all this type of things. I still think he's at that level. Last year, he still was top 3 in the league in sacks. Love J.J. Watt. And if he completes kind of a solid defensive line with DJ Reader's also solid as well. And then you go to their young linebacking core. Right in the middle, you have headlined by Bernardrick McKinney, who has shown a lot of potential. He's very athletic, very fast, sideline to sideline. He is going to be a solid linebacker for them for years to come. Now, a big headline the last couple weeks and for a little while now has been whether or not they're going to sign Jadeveon Clowney. Now, this is a huge deal because Jadeveon Clowney is one of the best outside linebackers in the NFL. He does it all. He is an animal. He is a beast. There have been questions about his work ethic, but you cannot deny the talent. I think they need to get that deal done. If not, their defense is far worse just because he is scary. He forces you to run the ball to the other side of the field. Same with J.J. Watt. Solid secondary, even though they lost Tyrann Mathieu. They still have Justin Reed, who's very solid. Excuse me. And they added a guy like Jaleel Adai from the Chargers, who will be a solid kind of backup, kind of play either safety position behind Justin Reed. And also signing a guy like Brian Body Calhoun, who has been a solid backup corner for his career. They did a good job kind of refilling some needed positions. And also they drafted Lonnie Johnson from Kentucky, who seemed to have performed well and has pretty solid tape. So yeah, I like their secondary. I like that they took chances. I like that they let Tyrann Mathieu go, who I think is more flash than production anyway. And yeah, I like this Houston team. I don't think last year was a one-year wonder. I think that Will Fuller coming back really actually helps their offense excel even more. And I think their defense, just having another year, kind of gel together. And yeah, I like this team. Again, 10-6, 4-2 in the division. Now, their best win of the year, I think, will be Week 9 at the Jags in Jacksonville. This will complete a season sweep. It is always nice to season sweep a divisional rival, and it will show that their offensive line has truly progressed, with the Jacksonville Jaguars having one of the best D lines in the NFL. Worst loss, it's going to be Week 7 in Indy. It's first time they meet them. These, I think, are the two teams to beat in the division. Spoiler, in beating Indy, they actually end up beating Indy in Week 12. But, yeah, it's going to be kind of tough. You don't want to come out and lose when it's going to be kind of the two top teams in the division. And, yeah, so that's what I think about the Houston Texans. Good team, could even be a great team. But right now, I think we have to see if that offensive line is actually improved or not. Now, the next team I'm going to be talking about is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have them going 7-9 this year and 2-4 in their division. Now, the Jags have done a lot of big moves since their run to the AFC Championship 2 years ago. Some questionable, some not. Now, the biggest move they did was bringing Nick Foles, who has been the best backup quarterback in the NFL for the last couple of years, leading the Eagles to a championship, Super Bowl. Now, Nick Foles hasn't had a complete season where he was productive since 2013, which was an excellent season. He only threw 2 interceptions in 11 games for the Eagles. But since then, he has been solid in limited time, but I'd like to see him put together for a whole season. And with the lack of weapons on the Jags, especially at wide receiver and tight end, I'd like to see what he can do with that type of team, to see if he can really put a team on his back instead of going to a team like the Eagles, who have a lot of weapons and a very solid O-line. Now, what I think the Jags need to do to actually be competitive this year is to rely on that defense and run the ball with Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette has not lived up to the expectations, kind of being the next Adrian Peterson out of high school and even out of college. People still said this man runs like a bull, and he does. And I hope that he can come back from his injury and play well this year behind a solid offensive line. You have the highest paid guard in the NFL, Andrew Norwell, and you also draft a guy like Jawan Taylor, who a lot of people had going in the top 5 in the draft. Slipped to the second round, but is still a lot of talent. And yeah, I think if they grit and grind games and Nick Foles is productive and doesn't throw a bunch of turnovers, they should be actually a pretty solid offense. But again, they're not going to be breaking any records. Now the defense is deep. That defensive line is probably the deepest in the NFL with the addition of Josh Allen. You have a guy like Yannick Ngakoue, who has been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL for a couple of years now. Fear the turtle, baby. Let's go Terps. But yeah, very solid pass rusher. You have Calais Campbell, who's been one of the best DNs in the NFL ever since joining the Jags. And then you just have a solid D-line with some depth like Taven Bryan from Florida, who showed his flashes last year and should actually improve. And I expect him to actually end up getting a starting role by the end of the year. Big hit was losing Telvin Smith, Pro Bowl linebacker, beast, just super athletic guy. Lost him. He had family issues for this year, so he's taking the year off. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, what it really is, but that's tough when you lose a guy with his skill set. Now, they still have Miles Jack, and bringing in Josh Allen Josh Allen should help kind of fill a hybrid role. I do see Josh Allen basically turning into a 3-4 outside linebacker. Now, he has shown, though, he showed in cone drills and stuff that he is agile enough to possibly put out in coverage. Hopefully, he can fill that role for a year. Now, the secondary. You probably have the best cornerback duo, tandem in the NFL. Having Jalen Ramsey, having A.J. Bouye, they're very talented corners. Jalen Ramsey, depending on who you ask, is the top cornerback in the NFL. The issue is with safeties. Now, I do think Ronnie Harrison, he was pretty good at Alabama. He was a third-round pick last year. He showed kind of an up-and-down season. Hopefully, he can be more steady. And I think with the pass rush, the secondary should look even better, and Jacksonville will probably be among the top in turnovers forced again this next year, like they were in 2017. Now, their best win I have is Week 17 versus the Colts. I think they play spoiler. They play spoiler a little bit. The Colts still make the playoffs, but they don't get a bye week that they would have if they won that game. And then their worst loss is going to be Week 15 at Oakland. I don't expect Oakland to be any good this year. I think any team that loses to Oakland should be their worst loss. I don't think Oakland's going to be very good this year. They're still obviously in a real rebuild mode, not in an aggressive rebuild mode. They're still trying to get that culture right. And that's going to be a backbreaker, especially when a lot of Jags fans right now are very excited for this upcoming season with the signing of Nick Foles and what looks like to be a revamped, amazing defense once again. Okay. All right, so next team is last year's best team in this division. You have the Indianapolis Colts, who I have going 10-6 and 3-3 in the division. Now, I know a lot of people expect the Colts to be very good this year. I'm being kind of conservative because I do feel that this division is very unpredictable. But yes, I still expect them to be one of the top offenses in the NFL, headlined by that offensive line. I know Andrew Luck gets a lot of love, but that offensive line with their two sophomores, Braden Smith, and then Pro Bowler Quentin Nelson has done a 180, going from one of the worst offensive lines to one of the, if not the elite offensive line in the NFL. That obviously helps Andrew Luck, who has always been a winner, always been a very good quarterback ever since his rookie year, but now he actually has time in the pocket, and that's been very, very good for him. He likes to throw the ball. Hopefully, if he keeps having all this time, he can be even more productive. He is my MVP favorite this year. I'd love to see him do that. Now, something else, their running back depth is very, very good. Marlon Mack last year showed that he can be a featured back in a system, and he was very productive for the Colts. And you also have their backups, Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines, who Jordan Wilkins is more of a rushing running back, while Nyheim Hines is more of a scat back, receiving back. Both are very productive. I love the weapons on this Colts team. Now, tight end, very good for them. Eric Ebron finally showed why he was a top 10 pick. Great year last year. He finally did it, put a whole season together. I really do think it's a lot of Andrew Luck. He's a great quarterback. Then they have Mo Alley Cox, who's another guy, red zone threat. He can go up and catch a football for you. Helps a lot. Red zone is one of the hardest places to score, and this Colts team has the weapons to be able to do that. And then you throw in a guy like Jack Doyle, who is just a good all-around tight end, and there you go. They have this kind of three-headed monster at tight end. Little old-fashioned, run that many tight ends, but they do it well because their tight ends are very athletic. And now, so they're wide receivers. Big person, Paris Campbell. A lot of people think Paris Campbell's going to be really good. I do think Paris Campbell's still a little raw, but I think having T.Y. there will kind of help out. I think he's going to do well in the slot. But these added receivers, and then also getting a guy like Devin Funchess should help Andrew Luck with his turnovers. He won't have to throw in tight windows as much because they should be getting more separation. So I really like this offense. Obviously, I think this is going to be a top 3 offense. The Colts are dangerous. Let's break into their defense, headlined by Defensive Rookie of the Year, Darius Leonard. Guy can do it all. There were questions about his speed, his athleticism, and mostly his coverage. Now, he showed last year that he can do it all. He can rush the passer. He can get back in coverage. He can tackle anybody. Not a lot of missed tackles. They add Justin Houston from the Colts, who I think is going to be just a nice veteran piece to have. It's always nice to have guys that have playoff experience, especially with this team that should be making the playoffs. Yeah, a lot of D-line depth. You got Tyquan Lewis, who's pretty good. They have another guy by the name of Kuroko Toure, had 4 sacks last year, and just kind of being a rotational guy. Both guys are only 24 years old. You add that to a D-line that already has Margus Hunt, and Jabal Sheard. Jabal Sheard has had a very underrated career. He's been a pretty solid, steady defensive end / outside linebacker for a while. So yeah, I like this defense. It's obviously not an elite defense in my eyes. I do always expect guys like Darius Leonard to kind of have a down sophomore year. It'd be hard for him to have a more productive sophomore year. Still very talented, but yeah, I don't expect the Colts to have even a top 5 defense, top 10 defense even. But yeah, a solid defense. Secondary, they have a lot of depth at corner. They drafted Rock Ya-Sin from Temple, who a lot of scouts loved. I thought he was kind of raw. He's obviously raw, but he's good. He's a solid tackler, which is always nice to have. His pass coverage is kind of spotty, but they have other corners there like Kenny Moore and Pierre Desir, who were very good in the playoffs and really showed that they can be serviceable, if not good, corners. So yeah, their best win I have is week 1 in LA against the Chargers. The Chargers are a very good team, as you'll see when I do them in the future. Very solid team. So I think it's big to be able to go in there week 1, beat a team like the Chargers, and show that, hey, we're here and we're here to play this year. You better watch out. Worst loss I have is week 17 versus the Jags. I had that as the Jags' best win. Vice versa, that's the worst loss. You don't want to lose, especially week 17. They could have went 11-5, been a lot more dominant. Instead, though, they go 10-6 and they tie the Texans for a record. Instead of coming out to look like that dominant team with a outright record in their division. Now, lastly, it's the Tennessee Titans. I like the Titans roster, but something ruins it for me. I had them going 8-8 and 3-3 in their division, and my main question is Mariota. Can he stay healthy for a season? Can he have actually more touchdowns and turnovers? I know he's done that in the past, but he's very turnover prone and he's very injury prone. That normally doesn't create a lot of success for a winning organization. I will not be surprised if we see Ryan Tannehill by week 10, week 11. Even if Mariota isn't living up to his standard, I think they'll bench him and bring Tannehill in. This is a big year for Mariota. This is a make or break year. He's either going to become a $100 million quarterback or he's going to be on another team next year. I strongly believe that. But yeah, Mariota, big question mark for me. I like their running back tandem, Derrick Henry, Dion Lewis, kind of this thunder and lightning. Derrick Henry had a very good end of his season last year. I worry that it's a Jay Ajayi type situation where he really just had a lot of big runs in the last couple games throughout the season. I'd love to see him do it for a whole season. I hope he does. I think he's a nice young talent. He's only 24 years old. But it's tough for these running backs because Derrick Henry doesn't get super low as a power guy, very top heavy. And yeah, I'd like to see him develop as kind of more of an all-around back. Their receiving core, I love their receiving core. I don't know why Adam Humphries went there. I think the receiving core is actually very crowded. But yeah, I think Adam Humphries, I guess, would be a good glue guy. I really loved A.J. Brown. He was my number 1 wide receiver in the draft. He is a yak monster, strong hands. Yeah, I think he's going to be a beast, slot possession guy. And I just hope he doesn't get wasted with Mariota as his quarterback. And you also have Corey Davis, who's a burner on the outside. Last year finally seemed to have shown real flashes, going for almost 1,000 yards. He has a very bright future. And yeah, you got some other young wide receivers in there that show that they could really be a very dangerous wide receiving core. But again, they have Mariota. Very good offensive line. Very solid offensive line last year, and they added a guy like Roger Saffold, who has been a very good veteran guard. You had that to 2 great tackles, a Pro Bowler and Taylor Lewan. They have a very strong offensive line, which should help Mariota in that run game, but again, we will see. Delaney Walker is basically a tight end / wide receiver, but I think Jonnu Smith, we saw last year, he showed great strides, and I think he's ready to kind of take the reins from Delaney Walker at some point, whether it's this year or next year. That's the main question on offense. If you listened, I love the offense, but I don't love Mariota. And a quarterback can either kill you or help you a lot. So we're going to see about that. So now the defense. Solid D-line led by Jarrell Casey, Pro Bowler, really slept on defensive end because he's in Nashville. Sadly, Jeffrey Simmons, their first-round pick from Mississippi State, probably won't play this year. They could really use him this year. He's a very talented guy, kind of a hybrid. You can put him anywhere you want on the defensive line. But sadly, he probably won't play this year because of his injury. They lost Derek Morgan. He just retired today, actually. Kind of young, 30 years old. But hopefully, Cameron Wake can come in and kind of fill that spot, getting about 5 sacks a year. And so, they shouldn't have to worry about that. I'm excited to see Harold Landry. He should be their main pass rusher. He showed that he can rush the passer at Boston College. Last year, he was kind of spotty sometimes. Some games he was really dominant looking. Some games looked like he couldn't do anything to save his life. So I'd like to see where he kind of produces, to see if he's really gotten better or if he's just going to be kind of this run-of-the-mill pass rushing guy that you kind of bring in for pass rushing situations. Now, solid outside linebackers with Jayon Brown and Wesley Woodyard. And then you have a guy like Rashawn Evans, who is the backup, who could probably start on other teams. Really like their linebacking core. So their front 7, I'm very impressed with. I'm kind of curious who's going to rush the passer. Solid coverage guys. And their secondary, above average. Very good safety core. Kenny Vaccaro came in, played really well for them. Seemed to have got his footing from his rookie year. And then Kenny Byard. I'm blanking on his first name, but we all know who I'm talking about. He had 7+ picks 2 years ago. Good safety. And then you have guys at corner like Adoree Jackson. I think really needs to progress and become that number 1 corner, because right now Malcolm Butler and Logan Ryan don't really seem to cut it. The old Patriots duo, they seem to be very average. Hopefully Adoree Jackson can become that number 1 outside guy, given his athleticism and his ball skills. Best win, Week 16 versus the Saints. That's just a good win. The Saints are a tough team, and the Saints may not make the playoffs with this loss. It's a big loss, and I think it gives the Titans a lot of hope for the future, because I do think they're a nice young team. They got obviously some old guys they need to replace, but I think they've already got backups, and they're kind of ready to become a next nice young up-and-coming team. But again, I don't think Mariota's there for them right now. Worst loss is Week 10 versus Kansas City. I think it's going to be the middle of the season. They're all right in the middle of the season, and they go to Kansas City, and I think Kansas City just smacks them. I think Kansas City is really tough offense, and I think it shows that the Titans just aren't there yet, and it's kind of that mid-season reality check. So there you have it. There's the AFC South. I think a lot of question marks in this division. I think, honestly, any team could take the division. I think there's one lock to make the playoffs, and that is the Colts. And then the other 3 teams, I think it does go Texans, Titans, Jags, but who knows? Very difficult division. And so, just final rundown. I have the Colts going 10-6. I have the Texans going 10-6. I have the Titans going 8-8. And then I have the Jags going 7-9. So, tough division. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Thanks for watching. please like and subscribe and comment below what you want to see. I recommend you go back and watch my other videos. I've done the AFC East and the AFC North. Next video will obviously be the AFC West. So again, thank you all for watching. Take care. Peace.